She just knew the mention of Jim Mainland's name would trigger another argument, and she was tired of Max's efforts to wear her down. The next hour repeated the two before. The salad was wilted and warm, the pizza cold concrete. Max stalked the length of the kitchen, with her captive in the little nook, arguing on and on that he was a Moreloss and mature for his age. He was well-traveled, fluent in Spanish. He had friends in Mexico and had been there many times. She had laughed at his bravado, making him angry, but she had feared his foolishness, his bravery. Finally, she cleared the table. "I'm going to bed, son. I know you feel sorry for these people, and so do I. We're doing everything we can, I promise. But you're not going anywhere, and that's final." That's all a mother needed to say, especially to a son who was usually obedient. She didn't know when her final word had stopped being the last word, but it had. She took her motherly stance, and he stood his ground. They fought. The next morning, he was gone. He left a note saying she was not to worry. She had almost gone crazy with it. A week and a half and 2 phone calls, then nothing. And now she knew why. He'd been kidnapped. She pushed the thought away as she slipped into the chair at the head of a burl oak conference table and looked beyond the 3 men who flanked her. The oblong stretch of wood gave her the sensation of being on a boat where all the people had slipped to one end. It was surely sinking. She vaguely heard a murmur of greetings and felt the questioning looks. For the moment, she let them continue with their reports. 8 dead, 32 injured. That's the last count we have in both mines. Some miners are still missing in R5. They haven't reached that cave-in yet, but the other one's cleared. 3 rescue units are still in place. They'll stay until it's over. Marco Cortina, the director of mining operations for Moreloss Industries, reported the latest grim news from Mexico. His voice droned on in Patricia's head like a tape played at the wrong speed. "We'll keep doing whatever is necessary to clear those sites and help the workers," Marco continued. "But we also have the problem of a strike. All the mines are shut down now. The rest of the men walked off Friday and probably won't come back to work tomorrow." Marco rubbed the back of his head hard, as if to dislodge the burden of his rounded shoulders, slumped as if in image of the miners. "The worst thing is that production has stopped, and, as we all know, our contracts will be in jeopardy if these crazy miners hold out. How far are you willing to go to get the Mexican mines working, Patricia?" Luis Hernandez, director of finances, stared at her, waiting for an answer. He tugged at his expensive jacket, beefy arms ready for a fight. He would not have had to ask her husband that question. She looked up at the sound of her name. Everyone was staring at her. Her hand slid over the silver pendant that lay against her gray silk blouse, fingers hugging the cold metal of an intricately carved Mayan god mask. Its edges ridged her skin. Sole owner of Moreloss Enterprises since her husband Tomas's death the year before, Patricia had worked hard to gain the respect of the upper ranks of her husband's empire. It had not been easy. They saw her simply as an attractive woman, good at hosting cocktail parties and arranging displays at the Moreloss galleries. To them, she was the quintessential trophy wife. At 39, 18 years younger than Tomas, they questioned her ability to run the company. The truth was that she had worked in the various departments of Tomas's silver business since she was a teenager, and long before she became his wife. Tomas had groomed her, molded her for what he knew was her future. If only he had thought to reassure his directors along the way, her move to the helm might not have been met with so much opposition. The Mexican machismo had been especially hard to fight. Now, after resisting her lead for so many months, they were expecting her to solve all their problems single-handedly, and as effectively as Tomas. "Patricia doesn't have to make that kind of decision at this minute, Luis." Jim Mainland, director of operations for all of Moreloss, jumped to Patricia's defense. It wasn't the first time. Jim was always there for her. He paused and looked at her, as if to see if she would say something, then went on. "Tomas told us many times that we ought to think ahead to the possibility of a cave-in. These mines are old, and we haven't had time to bring them up to code. Tomas would not have expected us to fall all over ourselves about these lazy workers," Luis said. "He would have taken care of this in a day. And if not, he knew how to ride out downturns and profit loss. We don't have his expertise anymore, now do we? And calling us out to meet on a Sunday night in the middle of a hurricane isn't going to help either." Luis held Jim's